Welcome back into another video. As of right now, Dead by Daylight has 101 survivor perks. It's pretty common knowledge that around 10 of these perks are much stronger than the rest. In today's video, we're going to talk about combinations of survivor perks in 2022 that give optimal builds depending on your playstyle. How's it going, everyone? My name is Schmuckles. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I have about 3,500 hours in Dead by Daylight. I stream educational survivor content on Twitch. The link is in the description below if you're interested in learning about survivor pathing, game sense, and ways to counter high MMR killers. The builds we're going to be talking about in this video range from the most optimal way to playing Survivor to some really fun builds that give a fresh take on Survivor-Killer interaction based on the newest perks that have come into Dead by Daylight. The first build we're going to overview is the Power build. This, in my opinion, is all around the strongest Survivor perk build in Dead by Daylight. The build is Dead Hard, Iron Will, Borrowed Time, and Adrenaline. Dead Hard is a David King teachable perk you can use while injured that gives you an invincible dash for half a second. At the highest tier, Dead Hard is unusable or exhausted after you use it for the next 40 seconds of not running. So sprinting freezes the timer and you can actually see how much time is left based on the left heart on the right side of the screen. A lot of people prefer Sprint Burst over Dead Hard as an exhaust perk. It is worth saying ever since the hit validation rework, Dead Hard desync has not been an issue anymore. I could talk for a long time about why I think Dead Hard is better than Sprint Burst. But to summarize the strongest argument, Dead Hard, unlike Sprint Burst, is going to allow you to recover from a mistake mid-chase. You can Dead Hard for distance to a vault or a pallet and there's nothing the killer can do to punish you for making a mistake. Iron Will is a Jake Park teachable perk that at the highest tier removes all grunts of pain. Iron Will stock went up this year since the killer perk Strider no longer counters it. This now makes Iron Will a devastating perk to run against a spirit or a nurse. Now you're not completely silent because the killer can still hear your footsteps. They're still going to hear you running on the wooden floorboards at Killer Shack or through the muddy swamp at Backwater. Killers can also hear Survivor breathing too, and some survivors breathe louder than others. Although in most cases, killers aren't going to hear walking footsteps or breathing. So Iron Will is going to allow a survivor to completely lose the killer mid-chase. Whether it's using unique pathing at a strong jungle gym or clever use of scratch marks to bait the killer one direction. So pretty much you're going to be able to use Iron Will to hide or escape a chase. Borrowed Time is the third perk in this build. It's a Bill Overbeck teachable perk that at the highest tier allows survivors to give a teammate that they save off of the hook an extra hit for 12 seconds. This is incredibly useful against killers who camp survivors on the hook. Ideally, a killer should be splitting pressure across multiple survivor targets to win. If a killer has fallen way behind in the game, the only way that they can win is by camping the hook to force a trade or eliminate the player on the hook. Borrowed Time counters a killer tunneling a teammate off of the hook. BT gives that survivor 12 seconds of immortality, which is ample time to find a vault or a pallet. The last perk in this build is Adrenaline. It's a Meg Thomas teachable perk that brings that survivor up one health state and gives them 150% movement speed for 5 seconds once the exit gates are powered. 150% of 4 meters per second is 6 meters per second. Therefore, the survivor gets 30 meters in 5 seconds. This is more than enough distance to escape the killer if you're in chase, or at the very least break line of sight on the kill and reset Bloodlust. If you're on the hook when the gates are powered, you're going to be full health once you're unhooked and you're still going to get the Sprint Burst. If you're injured but not in chase when Adrenaline procs, you're going to be full health. You're going to get the opportunity to borrow time save your teammate without having to find a teammate and waste 16 seconds of valuable time healing. These are the best 4 survivor perks in Dead by Daylight in my opinion. There's a few other notable perks like Decisive Strike or Unbreakable that you could probably replace Adrenaline with, but there's pretty obvious ways to counter both of those perks. A killer can't counter Adrenaline. The next build we're going to talk about is the Anti-Tunnel build. If you feel confident in your looping ability without needing perks like Dead Hard, Iron Will, Spine Chill, and Resilience, this might be the build for you. This build is geared more toward advanced loopers. The build is Boon Exponential, Unbreakable, Soul Guard, and Decisive Strike. Boon Exponential is a Jonah Vasquez teachable perk. After blessing a totem with this perk, any survivor that's put into the dying state within 24 meters of the totem will recover 100% faster. So that's twice as fast, and they'll be able to recover from the dying state. So instead of the 32 seconds it takes to recover from the dying state, it'll take 16 seconds. This can be incredibly useful, especially if a killer has tunneled you off of the hook near your blessed totem. The second perk in this build is Unbreakable. Unbreakable is a Bill Overbeck teachable perk that at the highest tier allows you to recover 35% faster from the dying state. You can also freely recover from the dying state once per trial. So instead of the 32 seconds it takes for you to recover from the dying state, it'll take around 21 seconds. Now, if you go into the dying state within 24 meters of your blessed totem, you're going to be able to get out of the dying state in about 13 seconds. Either way, if you're farmed or tunneled off of the hook and the killer leaves you slugged, you're going to be able to get yourself out of the dying state pretty freely. If you're down within your boon totem radius, it will not count as your Unbreakable dying state recovery. The third perk in this build is Soul Guard. It's a Cheryl Mason teachable perk that at the highest tier gives you the endurance status effect for 8 seconds when you recover from the dying state. Also, whenever you're affected from the curse status effect, you can completely recover from the dying state. So with this perk in your build, if the killer slugs you, you're going to be able to recover in either 21 seconds or 13 seconds, depending on whether or not you're in your boon totem radius, and have 8 seconds of immortality after. So the killer really can't leave you slugged if you're tunneled off hook. Also, if you're cursed from any killer hex totem, for example Hex Ruin, you're going to be able to completely recover yourself from the dying state regardless if your boon totem is active or not. So this is an absolutely devastating combination of perks so far. The final perk in the build is Laurie Strode's Decisive Strike. DS at the highest tier gives you 60 seconds of immortality off the hook given that you don't progress the game in any way. So far, the only way for a tunneling killer to counter this anti-slug build is to pick you up to prevent Unbreakable. So if they pick you up, they'll be stunned for 5 seconds after you hit an ultra hard skill check. With this build, once you receive a save from a teammate, there's nothing the killer can do. In fact, as long as you receive a save from a teammate, you'll definitely get value out of this build against the tunneling killer. Coming from experience, based on the design of this build, you'll most likely get value from these 4 perks even if the killer doesn't tunnel you. Think of it as an anti-slug build with DS. The third build we're going to talk about is the team player build. This build is designed for players who want to help their teammates escape more than anything else. It can help out your Swift teammates, or you can even try and carry a team in solo queue with this build. The build is Borrowed Time, Boon Circle of Healing, Botany Knowledge, and For the People. Bill Overbeck's Borrowed Time will help you safely save your teammates even against a camping killer. Boon Circle of Healing is Michaela Reed's teachable perk. At the highest tier, after activating a boon totem, all survivors within 24 meters of the blessed totem can heal themselves at twice the normal speed. So your teammates are going to get healing value when within the boon totem's radius. Every survivor, including yourself, can heal themselves in 16 seconds, and one survivor heals another survivor in 8 seconds. Killers can snuff out boon totems by going up to them and kicking them. There are some irritating spots far away from the killer that you can bless boon totems, like this spot on McMillan Estate. Notice how this spot works as a cylinder of healing for 3 different stories, including the basement. The third perk in this build is Claudette Morale's Botany Knowledge. At the highest tier, this perk increases the speed in which you heal your teammates by 33%. So you're going to heal your teammates 10.5 seconds as opposed to the regular 16 seconds. And it's going to be even faster in the boon totem radius. Some people prefer We'll Make It over Botany Knowledge because you can heal your teammate at double speed. So We'll Make It is a faster heal, but it's not active the entire game like Botany is. The final perk is Zarina Caster's teachable perk For the People. When full health, you can activate the ability button and instantly heal your teammate 1 health state. You become the obsession and go to the injured state and have the broken status effect for 60 seconds. This perk is an incredibly useful way to save a teammate that's being tunneled and increase their odds of escaping while lowering yours. This build in general is designed for players who like looking after their teammates and protecting them at all costs. The next build we're going to talk about is the Bully build. This build is for players who enjoy being toxic to killers and like taking the killer's full attention. You don't even have to know how to loop to use this toxic build. The build is Head On, Quick and Quiet, Flashbang, and Decisive Strike. Head On is a Jane Romero teachable exhaust perk that gives a survivor the ability to stun the killer from a locker after they've been in the locker for 3 seconds. There are certain areas on maps like Dead Dog Saloon and Red Forest where the killer must walk past lockers in order to continue the chase, whether that be with you or your teammate. So Head On is a great way to reset Bloodlust and stun the killer. You can also use Head On as a way to rescue teammates off of the killer's shoulder. Pairing this perk with Meg Thomas's Quick and Quiet can help you buy the 3 seconds you need to get the Head On stun. Quick and Quiet will allow you to jump into the locker without giving the killer a loud noise notification. This can help confuse the killer for the 3 seconds that you need to activate Head On. At the highest tier, Quick and Quiet has a cooldown of 20 seconds. The third perk in this build is Flashbang. It's a Leon Kennedy teachable perk. At the highest tier, after repairing a generator for 50% progress, so 40 charges, you'll be able to go into a locker and craft a Flashbang. You can use the Flashbang to blind the killer and rescue your teammates off the killer's shoulder. The 3 best ways to Flashbang save your teammate is to 1. Be around the corner from where the killer is, 2. Next to the hook just before the killer hooks your teammate, or 3. Right after the animation of the killer picking up your teammate finishes, similar to a flashlight save. So far with this build, you can use Head On and Quick and Quiet to jump into a locker and craft a Flashbang. When you stun the killer with Head On, you can drop the Flashbang and completely blind them for 3 seconds. It's really frustrating to face a survivor who has all 3 of these perks. You can kind of disrupt the entire momentum of the killer's game. The final perk is Decisive Strike. The 3 other perks are all designed locker play, so DS is the obvious 4th pick for this build. Also, if you use the other 3 perks, the killer will likely tunnel you off of hook, so you're going to be safe to jump into a locker. You can either DS stun the killer if they open the locker, or Head On stun them if they camp it. You can even use DS and then immediately jump back into the locker and then Head On stun them. I can't think of a more toxic combination of perks to constantly blind and stun the killer and take up as much of the killer's time as possible. The perks in this build don't really require looping knowledge to use. This means that players of all levels could easily learn this build. Alternatively, you could switch out Decisive Strike for Deception depending on your playstyle. The last build we're going to overview is one of the most fun builds in Dead by Daylight. The build is Power Struggle, Flip Flop, Tenacity, and Unbreakable. It's going to allow you to pallet save yourself off of the killer's shoulder. It probably doesn't work too well in solo queue. I'd highly recommend trying out this build with a Swift. Power Struggle is an LED teachable perk that at the highest tier allows you to drop a standing pallet to stun a killer and escape their grasp once you've reached 25% wiggle progress. The other perks in this build will help optimize this perk. Flip Flop is an Ash Williams teachable perk that at the highest tier allows you to convert half of your dying state recovery progress into wiggle progress. So with Power Struggle and Flip Flop, you'll be able to recover up to 50% progress and then immediately drop the pallet onto the killer right after they pick you up. The third perk is Tenacity. It's a Detective Tap teachable perk that at the highest tier allows you to crawl 50% faster and recover at the same time. So as soon as you're down, you can quickly crawl to the nearest pallet and recover at the same time. You'll move 1.50 meters per second instead of 0.7 meters per second. Bill Overbeck's Unbreakable will allow you to recover 35% faster. You'll be ready to stun the killer in 10.4 seconds after going down. If you're in solo queue, about 80% of the time, the killer's going to pick you up right away and you won't get any value from your perks. However, if you have a teammate nearby or you're coordinating with a Swift, all you need to do is have someone take the killer's attention for 10.4 seconds. After 10.4 seconds, if you're under a pallet, it's a guaranteed pallet stun. Typically, if you're under a pallet, the killer's going to check to see if a teammate's nearby. So you could probably pull off this build in solo queue if there's a flashlighter in the lobby. If you coordinate this play with a Swift, you could have a teammate bring any means necessary to reset the pallet after you use it. In fact, you and your teammate could probably run this exact Pallet-Save build and then replace Unbreakable with any means necessary. That way you could take turns stunning the killer and then resetting the pallets for each other. As I found out while recording this video, Spirit Fury counters this build pretty perfectly. These are the best builds in Dead by Daylight in 2022. If you want to see last year's video with 5 different survivor builds, you can click on the title above. Do you know of any better builds out there? Would you want to see a killer version of this video? Which build that I went over was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.